Well, your brand is more than just a product. The way that I like to define your brand is how you emotionally connect to your audience, sustain their trust, and remain accountable to them.
Mm,
So those keywords there are emotion, sustainability, and accountability. So go back to that idea that it's not only informing them, but connecting. And the best way to connect with them is emotion. So when you show up at your best, you are being your brand, which is why it's really important to be authentic.
You are listening to the Designer Within podcast, episode number 13. I'm John McClain, and welcome to the Designer Within podcast, the business minded podcast created for creative entrepreneurs by a creative entrepreneur. That's me. I know firsthand the challenges, but also the victories that can come with our careers. And I'm here to sip and spill the tea with you. It's time to dive deep within yourself and redesign your own business and your life from the inside out. Together, we will uncover secrets and share valuable insights. So prepare for a transformative experience, my friend, because it's time to unleash the designer within. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Designer Within. We are on episode 13. Yay, it's lucky number 13, right? This episode is special for a couple of reasons. Number one, I love the topic, but number two, it is our first episode with an actual guest. So you won't just have to hear me talking the entire time. We have a fabulous guest today. I'm going to tell you about him in just a moment. But first, I want to go over a little housekeeping with you and cover some things I just want you to know about. So, lots of things going on if you're listening to this in real time. Some really, really fun things happening. So, I just wanted to mention those before we go into the episode. And also, I do want to mention on all of our episodes with a guest, I'm actually recording them with video. So, you can go on YouTube and actually watch the video portion of the broadcast if you like, of the podcast, or you can listen to it as you normally do, whatever you like. But I do like to have that interaction, sort of like a Howard Stern situation, if you will, without all the raunchiness of the video situation. So that is what we will do on all of our guest interviews. But first, let me just cover some of those housekeeping things that I talked about. If you are listening to this in real time, we are recording this in September. And of course, High Point Market is coming up in October. There's so many things coming up that I'm going to be doing at High Point Market. I hope that I can run into you there. First of all, I will be having a speaking engagement every day. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I will keep you updated on those on my social media pages, on my Instagram at John McClain Design or at The Designer Within. But I definitely want to remind you to come to my speaking engagement, my presentation at Universal Furniture's Learning Center. That is October 15th. That's a Sunday at 4 p.m. Now, you have to register for this event, or you need to register for this event because it does fill up quickly. Every single one of the speaking engagements that I've done there have sold out and have been standing room only. So please register ahead of time so that you are guaranteed a spot. I can tell you, you are going to love this topic. It is talking about pricing. I'm going to spill the beans on my new pricing model and how I think it's really going to revolutionize the entire interior design industry. And I really will go into detail with you and give you some downloads and some things that you can actually use to implement this new pricing model of how to price your services, how to price your products so that you're happy, so that your clients are happy, and you're actually making money. So join me October 15th, 4 p.m. at Universal Learning Center. You can go to johnmcclain.co and register, or just head to my Instagram page, John McClain Design or The Designer Within, and you can find the registration there in the link. Next, I wanted to mention, I am doing a giveaway. It is the anniversary of my book. If you missed the last episode, I talk about the book, and actually next week's episode, we'll be diving into another chapter of the book. But go back and listen to last week's episode if you've not listened to it yet. I dive into my design process as well as talking about the reasoning behind the book. But I'm giving away 10 signed copies of my book, as well as a grand prize box of goodies. So go again to my Instagram page, find out how to register for that. And I also wanted to mention that for the anniversary of my book, I'm putting my book on sale, giving you an anniversary price for the book. And you can also head to the link in my Instagram page to purchase a copy. So nice big savings there. So check out all of the great things happening at High Point Market, as well as the anniversary of my book. I definitely want you to either take advantage of the giveaways that I'm offering or purchase a copy on sale while they are on sale. The anniversary sale and the giveaway goes through November 3rd. And now that we've covered all of that, let's jump into today's episode. Today, we are going to talk about branding and the importance of branding. And you might think branding might just be something for a larger company, a larger presence, but I'm here to tell you from personal experience, and our guest today will talk more about that. But branding is definitely something that we can consider as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, smaller business owners, and it will definitely help our companies increase in exposure and increase in business. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my guest today. My guest today is Jess Ponce. Jess is renowned globally for his brand communication expertise. He is a media coach for anyone promoting a brand. Industry giants who seek Jess for his custom coaching include Lucasfilm, Disney, LinkedIn, Ritz-Carlton, and BNP Paribas. Armed with deep media experience that includes production and programming for ABC, Warner Brothers, MTV, and more, Jess is the creator of the trademark A Factor, a brand empowerment process that teaches the art of authentic self-promotion. Love that. A gifted speaker and a nationally known commentator on body language, very interesting, and celebrity culture, Jess is the president of JP3 Global Media, where he empowers business leaders and subject matter experts to project brand influence with confidence and authenticity on air and in person. And I know you're going to love my conversation with Jess today. So let's jump into that now. Grab your pens and papers. This one is worth taking notes on. And I want to introduce you now to Jess Ponce. A quick note to everyone listening. I'm so sorry, but I had a bit of a microphone issue on this recording. Jess sounds great. Unfortunately, mine had a bit of an issue. We corrected it as best we could. You can still understand what I'm saying, but I apologize for the little bit of dilution you hear in my voice. Needless to say, we will get this fixed on the next episode, but you can still hear everything. Power through and listen. It's great information. Stick around to the end as well, and I'm going to do a nice little recap of our conversation of all of the points discussed, and I have a free download for you for listening to the entire podcast. Here is Jess Ponce. Jess, welcome to the Designer Within podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. I likewise am very happy to be here. So I appreciate you inviting me to join you.
Well, as I was telling everyone earlier, this is a special podcast. And I didn't tell you this, but I reserved this first podcast guest episode for you specifically. And I did not allow anyone else to take the spot because I wanted you to have it. And it's very important for me for a couple of reasons. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But before we go into that, tell everybody a little bit more. I've already given them your bio, a bit about yourself, but tell me who you are. And from your own perspective, who is Jess Ponce?
Dude, who is Jess Ponce? Well, I am at my core a student of communication. I have spent a lifetime studying how we communicate, the way that we express ourselves, and how can we optimize every moment so that we are better understood and that we can better understand people. And I do this in various ways.
I love that. And in various ways, not only just in all the ways that we're going to talk about in the larger presence with larger companies, but even down to your social media. You have these great little TikTok moments, these great little Instagram moments where, frankly, you can go on there and just grab a piece of information and apply it to your business and your life. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. And I love what I do, as someone who himself has, struggled with my own way that I communicate. I, really think that, for me, speaking is like breathing air, right? So I've always got an opinion. I've always got something to share. And I think that all of us, desire to be understood, desire to be heard, really just to be able to be heard and to be seen. And I believe that when you are seen and you are heard, you can break through whatever it is that you have to say. And that could be in a TikTok video, that can be in person, and that can also be the way that your brand is represented online.
Yeah, and what you do so well is I think that you allow people the freedom to sort of be seen and heard on our own terms on a way that is personal to the person who is doing it versus trying to mimic what someone else is doing, right? I think that's really key to a brand and a personality in general.
Absolutely, because I think that there's a way that you can be authentic in your own self promotion. I think we have so many models of people who are trying to be something, and we all think that, well, that might be the way. For example, trying to be perfect. When I first started in television, perfection was the way was ideal because we wanted people to look polished. We wanted people to be able to say things the quote unquote right way. We wanted them to have the right look. And what social media has done, and what all of these wonderful brands that are out there, is they're showing us their true selves, whether they're having an emotional moment, whether they look imperfect, whether they just came out of the gym or just out of a moment that might have been really hard for them in terms of their own struggle. People are real, and that's what we want nowadays. We don't want overly polished, and we definitely don't want perfect.
Do you think that, I mean, I agree with you 100%. And I've tried to be more, I know that word authentic is totally overused these days, but I've tried to be more just honest and straightforward and to the point with people and my own followers and in my own life. But I feel like sometimes larger brands, they sort of miss the mark a bit, and perhaps they look to influencers or they look to, someone who does have a pulse on their own personality and their own personal brand to basically portray this larger brand. Because I don't know why it is. Sometimes I feel like sometimes larger brands miss the mark a bit when it comes to being personal and finding that way into someone's brain, into their thoughts. They look to an influencer perhaps to do that. Do you feel that way? Maybe there's a way that a smaller individual is finding a way to speak to the masses in a different way than a company does.
I think that because larger brands are trying to speak to the masses, when you get into a habit of trying to speak to everybody, sometimes you don't speak to anyone.
Mm.
And the reason why influencers are
Wait,
so
wait, wait, wait,
significant,
wait, wait. Say that again. Say that again. That's good. That's good. That's good. Say it again.
I think sometimes when you try to speak to the masses and you try to speak to everyone, you don't speak to anyone.
Oh my God. Write that down, everybody. That's good stuff. Okay. Continue. Sorry. Had to reiterate that. That's good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I love being quotable when I can.
That is so good.
And
Yeah.
here's what I mean by that is that too often, and we do this as individual brands, as personal brands, is we try to be everything to everyone.
Mm.
And what ends up happening is you dilute your message. Now, with big brands, they're trying to have sort of universal messages or things that apply to so many people. And what they're not doing is they're not speaking to people's essence and they're not speaking to their heart.
Mm.
And what you do when you get an influencer, influencers have particular demographics that they speak to. And an influencer, and it's also on the medium in which they choose to share their social media. It could be on TikTok or it could be on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, now known as X, right? What they do is they want to capitalize on the following of this particular influencer. And that particular influencer advocating the brand does not damage the brand's sense of being wide reaching.
Mm.
So, for example, if you have a TikToker that has a following of young people, let's say 20 to 25, who are really interested in social issues, and that influencer speaks on your brand, then you've reached that audience by having the influencer advocate for you versus the brand going and advocating to that particular audience in lieu of them potentially alienating other people. Now, there have been instances, and we've seen this, where that alienation has happened.
Yeah.
And that's because of certain circumstances that, we are really surprised in the way that people consume products and their belief systems. And cancel culture is rampant, and it has been for the last, probably 5 years.
But I mean, that speaks to that authenticity, and it speaks to the brand trying to be personal when a brand brings someone on. And what comes to mind for me, and maybe for you too, is the recent Bud Light
blow up that just happened where they hired a transgender individual, and there was such a backlash among almost every conservative, I would say, person who was listening and watching, and all of the people that were watching this person represent that brand. There was a backlash, and do you think that Bud Light got it wrong? Do you feel like maybe in that situation they wanted to be more personal, but now maybe that they're going to rethink their strategy going forward? Like how does something like this Bud Light situation where they did face a lot of backlash and a lot of issues and the whole cancel culture issue, how's that affect them? And how does that, in your eyes, see that that's going to affect future brands from reaching out to people in a minority situation?
I think it's a very layered issue because, it's not like this individual was their only spokesperson.
Hmm.
They received the product and they were asked to speak on it and to advocate on behalf of the brand. And in doing so, there are people who are big supporters of the brand that believe they were not being spoken to. And it's interesting because you look at somebody, in trans culture and you have one individual who's speaking on this. And it's not like they're saying you have to be trans in order to like this. But with those who, vehemently opposed it and who protested say, this is not on brand for us. You're giving our product away to somebody else. And you feel like that by quote unquote being woke, which is a way overused and misunderstood term, that you were trying to reach other people. And so on some levels, they were trying to reach a different audience, a different demographic, and they did. But what they didn't take into consideration is the backlash of how other people might be, how they might feel alienated. What is interesting, saying yes to one audience does not alienate another.
Mm.
But we live in a society and a culture where we feel like if you're not speaking to us or you're speaking to the other, it's the othering of people that really divides how brands can go across the board and speak to multiple audiences. And speaking to multiple audiences has been something we've done our entire lives. Now, when we were kids, we spoke to our parents differently than we spoke to our friends.
Mm.
And we might include a detail in a story when we spoke to our parents that we may not include with our friends, or vice versa, much like we did with our teachers. Now, what happens is imagine that your parent found out more from the story from their friends. They might feel overly protective or alarmed or concerned because they didn't realize that you were alone for, let's say, 2 hours or whatever the case may be. But now we live in a very transparent world where we have to make sure that we remain integrity to all of the various audiences that we are trying to reach.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point and very relatable to all of us on social media, where we want to show a portion of our personal lives. We want to show a portion of how we are behind the scenes, but we don't need to show every bit of our dirty laundry out to the entire world on social media. Do you have any advice on striking that balance between, showing the world like this is who I am, this is who I am in my personal life, and my world is part of my brand. Because that was something that I've learned how to do. I've learned to share things about my husband. I learned to share things about what I love doing, my personal life, where I'm going on vacation, etc. But somehow it's still slightly intertwined with my brand. So my personal brand has sort of evolved into this, kind of conglomerate of design and travel and my personal beliefs. And I feel like that's what people are following. But what advice do you have to people for sort of blending their online presence, on blending their social media presence, blending their presence to the world without, again, showing every bit of their warts and all to everybody, but how do they show who they truly are while keeping on brand?
Well, we have to think of social media exactly as what it is. It is a media, which means, therefore, we choose and we can editorialize what we present. It's social because it is the way that we connect with other people on a much bigger scale. Now, what's really interesting is we get to decide what it is that we want to share. And there is no way possible today to not have personal blended with professional. We have a whole demographic. We have two demographics, both millennials and Gen Z, who don't have a really big line or divider between personal and professional. Now, as a Gen Xer, I grew up with this idea that you kept home at home and you went to work and you had work be work. Now we have this whole fusion, and the pandemic actually brought work into our homes, right? With all of the Skyping and Zooming that went on, you now saw people with their pets in the background. You saw spouses walking in the background. But what is really great when it comes to communication is there are two elements that are really key. One is information. So we don't want to be just data machines giving out facts and figures about our business, about our subject matter expertise. We also want to be able to connect to the audience. And the way that we are able to connect with the audience is by being personable, by sharing something of ourselves. So information and connection combined together really make us very powerful in how we present our brands. Now, to go back for a second, because we can choose, because we are broadcasters on many levels in our social media, we don't have to give everything away.
Mhm.
There are some things that are just private and some things that people really don't care about. You also have to be very conscientious that everything that you put out there is subject to criticism.
Yeah.
So if you're sensitive and you don't want to be criticized for a certain belief, or maybe for, being gender fluid or something, in that instance, then don't put it out there. But the likelihood is if that's who you are, then you've already dealt with those haters in real life.
And yes, I agree. And I think a lot of it is something that you possibly get more accustomed to with age and experience, and just things that go through in life. Where me as a 20-something-year-old would never say or do the things in to the world. Social media wasn't around, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, when you and I were in our 20s, and so now things are.
Could you imagine if it was?
Uh,
Oh my God.
it would be horrible. But I will say this. So I told you guys in the intro, Jess is not only an accomplished in his field, but also he's a friend of mine. And if you look behind me on the video, you'll see a book called The Designer Within. And I know you guys know this is my book anniversary. This is the 1 year anniversary of my book. And to tell you guys where the title of that book came from, it's this guy right here. This is the man who he and I were having a powwow session one day. He does the best brainstorming session. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And you have this innate ability, Jess, to really get into someone's head and verbalize all the random thoughts that someone is saying. You somehow encapsulated that and said, no, it should be called The Designer Within. And I was like, that's exactly it. So that is where I wanted everyone to know that is where you directly contributed to me in so many other ways, but that is the one that's on my mind right now. And I just wanted to publicly thank you for that, because it has literally changed my life and my world and everything. So thank you, Jeff.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for being so open and so honest to all of us, myself included, in the course of our friendship, with being who you are and sharing your gift. And I think this is a real great testament to you, and also an example for everybody listening, that if you're willing to be open to other people, you could be amazed what you might get back in return. Because all I did was mirror back to you what you were saying to me. And quite often, that's all we need, is someone to be able to do that for us in order for us to move forward.
I agree, and I so appreciate it. So back to the point at hand with helping everybody find their personal brand. I want to ask you, what do you think that some of the common mistakes are that people make when it comes to defining our personal brand? So we're looking to, maybe someone hasn't even thought about where to start with making or defining or coming up with their own personal brand. Maybe, they're just throwing out stuff out there and seeing what hits and what sticks. What do you think some of the mistakes are that they make, number one? And then what advice do you have on the second half of that question for developing their own personal brand, no matter what company they are?
I think that, some of the mistakes include being perfect, or this effort to try to be perfect, which is a losing effort and endeavor. We discussed that a little bit already. And also, the second thing is trying to be everything to everyone. I have this formula, which we can talk about in a second, about how to define your audience. Because what you want to do is you want to speak to those who need what you want, or who want what you are able to give them. If they can need and want what you have, and you know what you have, then you are reaching the right audience. And so you have to be willing to not be perfect. You have to be willing to not have everybody advocate for you. And the other thing is experimentation is the best way to do something. If you find that doing videos is something that you love, then do it. That passion will shine through. If you find that writing witty posts or commenting on things is something that you love to do, then that's how you're going to shine. Because if you try to do what other people are doing for success, and even though I believe there's a lot to be said about emulating because we find our own way in doing that. But the way that they do something, it's not necessarily going to work for you.
Very well put. So back to your point of what you advise folks. So you have something called the A factor. And I love it. I think it's so great. And this is basically your core working model for the brands that you work with, big and small. So tell me what the A factor is and how that plays into defining a brand.
Well, the A factor is a very simple formula, and it is absolutely something that I use in all of my coaching and all of my consulting and the work that I do. And there are three simple A's that you have to remember. The first is your audience. So, who are the people? Who are the tribe? Who are the individuals that want what you have? The second is, what is your agenda? How are you going to reach these individuals? And what are you purposely going to say to them? What are the three key talking points? And the third one is the call to action. So remember, it is your audience, your agenda, and your actions that really can get you out there in terms of your brand being both aligned and specific to a particular audience.
And that can come into play in a verbal conversation. That can come into play in a social media post, in a newsletter, or in a lot of different ways, right? I would think.
Absolutely. So going back to the example that I used earlier with our parents. So when we had a particular audience, our mom and dad, we told specific story points on something we wanted to share. So we had an agenda. And our call to action, or the thing that we wanted, is we wanted to get through that story and to get on to either playing or doing something that we wanted. So in our daily lives, we editorialize. What I've done is just given us a structure so that we can remember that. And where we often get lost is in our agenda because we want to be able to say everything. Now, remember, when you're talking about a brand or even when you're telling a story and you're communicating something, because you experienced it, you know all the details. So all the details can be lost when you tell a story. And we've all been there with people who start here, then go here, and then branch off to here, and then go there because their stream of consciousness doesn't allow them to say, these are the 3 points of the story: a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's what people are going to remember when it comes to your brand story, are 3 specific points. You don't have to say everything. And too often we say everything because we feel like we're missing something that's so vital. And here's the truth: people can only remember so much. Yeah. So give them the key talking points.
You know, I think you taught me very well how to speak in sound bites, and sound bites is something that is used in the TV industry, and it's basically just getting to the point, and it's getting to directly to the point, and it's something where people can take it and remember it, right? It's basically something that you can, air on a commercial and someone's, oh my gosh, I want to know more about that, right? And you taught me really how to do that. And I think that's kind of where the TikTok culture is now and where the social media world is now, is that everybody wants this grab and go bit of information that they can say, for better or worse. I don't suggest it in your therapy sessions from a TikTok, but you know what I'm saying, right? A lot of people want to know a grab and go, apply it right now method of learning. And I feel that is what this soundbite method of learning could be.
Absolutely. And remember, at the end of the day, if you want to invest your time in either going to part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4 of a story on TikTok, for example, or if you want to find out more information about some little nugget that you just learned on a TikTok, you can go to that individual's website, or you can research and Google it. So what happens in social media, it gives us a sense, it gives us a flavor, it gives us a quick, as you said, sort of tap and go to learn more about something. So in many ways, what social media provides us is a sampling, is a menu of different things that we can look at. And if one 30-second or 60-second thing inspires you to do something, then you know what? That is social media at its absolute best.
I agree. Yeah. And back on the topic of just brands in general, I teach my students in my program that your brand is not just something that you put out into the world of social media or online. It is what you represent in person. It is what you represent at cocktail parties, at a chamber of commerce meeting, at any sort of a function that you're attending. In our industry as designers, we attend lots of furniture shows at High Point Market and Las Vegas Market, and we're shaking hands and saying hi to our colleagues and to, possibly say hi to brands who we can partner with down the road. But speak to that a bit about how your brand is really, I don't know, I feel like it's pretty all encompassing sometimes with everyone that you encounter. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that your brand is not only something that you are videoing or recording or putting out into the world. It should always be something that is top of mind on your brain to represent yourself in all aspects of life. How do you feel about that? And what advice do you have to people for, always be on brand, quote unquote?
Well, your brand is more than just a product. The way that I like to define your brand is how you emotionally connect to your audience, sustain their trust, and remain accountable to them.
Mm.
So those keywords there are emotion, sustainability, and accountability. So go back to that idea that it's not only informing them, but connecting. And the best way to connect with them is emotion. So when you show up at your best, you are being your brand, which is why it's really important to be authentic. In Everyday Celebrity, I broke something down called your celebrity quotient.
Hold on, hold
Because
on. Tell everyone what that everyday celebrity is, by the way, because we haven't gotten into that yet. Tell them what that is.
so Everyday Celebrity is my first book.
Yeah.
It's called Everyday Celebrity, a personal branding guide from a Hollywood media coach.
Highly,
And
highly, highly recommend it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
thank you, thank you. Your check is in the mail. So,
Huh.
but it's really, apropos to what we are talking about because the whole book centers around this idea that we are everyday celebrities. So when you speak about your brand, you don't have to be in a Hollywood, movie or on a Broadway stage in order to be a star. You can be a star in your industry. You can be a star in your community. And that doesn't mean yet you're the only star, but you are a star. And what your celebrity quotient is if you were to pick three words that you want the audience to walk away feeling when they are in contact with you, what are the three emotional words that people will say about your brand?
Mm.
So for me, for example, I would say that I am informative, I am sincere, and direct. I'm informative, sincere, and direct. And my hope is that every time someone experiences me and my brand, they walk away with those three words, feeling that they've gotten something from me. So going back to the emotional connection, sustainability of trust, and remaining accountable to your brand, it's about your audience. It's not always about you.
So do you suggest that we obviously start every thing that we do, any sort of engagement with ourselves and our brand, just if we simply follow those 3 points and make sure that those are encapsulated in what we do, that we're going to hit our mark with our brand?
Absolutely. It's almost like a litmus test or a barometer. So
Mm.
when you look at your bio, for example, when you look at what you're doing in terms of social media, when you're looking at your website and also how you are, because you are a medium when you face people, you yourself are the best medium possible. So that these three characteristics are consistent across everything that you do. Now, that doesn't mean that you do all of them all the time. There might be one moment where you're very informative, but yet you're still on brand by being informative.
Mm.
Or let's say it's witty or charming, whatever it is that those three words are for you. When you show up at your best and you are being on brand, you are being one, two, or all of those things.
So when we're speaking about ourselves and our companies and our personal achievement and our anything about our brand and our companies and our lives, how do we get past the point of maybe feeling boastful, maybe feeling like we are bragging on ourselves? What would be your advice to someone who says, "Oh, I really don't feel comfortable speaking about myself, about my company, about an award that I won, about, how beautiful this project is as we are as interior designers, something like that. Because, for us as designers, our calling card is our projects, right? That is exactly what we have. And if we don't speak about those, if we don't tell the world that, oh my gosh, we have this amazing new project and we're so proud of it because of X, Y, and Z, then no one's going to know about it and we're not going to get any future clients. So how do you suggest someone get past the point of worrying about that false boastfulness that I feel is out there?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is to realize that self is not a four-letter word in the
Mm,
traditional.
mhm,
And it's because we have these models in politics, on reality TV, and other places where it's all about them, right? We have to work against that and realize that our point of view is a gift. What we have as expertise is a gift. It is about the audience. So if you think about being in service to them, then every accomplishment you have, everything that you've done in the past, and the things that you do that have gotten you to where you are, they can be a gift to those audience members. Now it becomes braggy when you're doing list one, list two, list three, but you need to get back. We all need to get past this idea that self is somehow a negative thing
mhm.
because who you are is a gift. So if you come from a point of service and of gratitude, I think that's a winning combination that anybody's going to love the stories that you tell.
I agree, and I feel the exact same way. And I feel that if you come from a place of serving, you don't ever really even have to sell. If you're serving to someone, if you're serving a client, if you're serving a potential client in a way that is natural and is coming from a place of wanting to help that other person and serve to them, your sales will come naturally. Your brand will just be enhanced every single time. And I think that that's exactly what you're saying is that it's a natural extension of yourself without ever having to worry about, feeling false or feeling this, this fakeness that some people feel when they're speaking about themselves and their company.
Absolutely. And I think when it comes to design, in my humble opinion, it's a point of view that you're offering. It's a perspective. It's a visual explosion that's based on your point of view.
Hmm.
You got to believe in your point of view. And if you're willing to share that, that can help that individual, then you've done some good in the world. I mean, not everything is altruistic, but at the end of the day, what we do, if we are purpose driven in terms of our careers, we are of service. We are doing something to create beauty. We are doing something to create impact. We are doing something that will give people a better sense of themselves and of their home in terms of being a designer.
Very well said. Thank you. So you've worked with large companies, Lucasfilm, Disney, Red Carlton, LinkedIn, MTV, Warner Brothers, all these companies. And as designers and as just people in the creative industry, there's lots of times where we might have the opportunity to partner with a larger brand. So we might partner with a furniture company or a lighting company. And I know it's not possibly to the level of a, Warner Brothers or an MTV, but in the design industry, it is something that is sort of coveted and valued is this working together with a larger brand and partnering alongside of them. And we touched on that a bit earlier, but what tips do you have for someone who, maybe doesn't even know where to begin with speaking the language, so to speak, quote unquote, of a larger company or understanding what they can contribute? Is there any advice that you can give someone to really just knock on the door of a larger company and sell their wares to this larger company for the expectation of partnering with them? And again, I'm sure we can come back to the point of serving and serving that company in a
Mhm.
way. But what other advice do you have for someone who might want to grow their own personal brand by partnering with a larger brand out there?
I think the first thing is to look at brands that you're in alignment with. So, for example, when we look at the Apple logo, we don't necessarily see computers. We see innovation, we see creativity. When we look at the Ford logo, the Ford slogan is, Ford built tough, right? We think of something that very Americana, we have a certain idea about. So when you're looking at a lighting company or one of these other many different design outlets, you have to consider, what do they stand for? When I walk away, what is it that their audience, their people, their customers get from? And not just lighting, not just paint colors, not just, phrase or whatever it is. If you can identify what their brand is and see if that's in alignment with yours, then you already have a winning combination. That's step one, is select brands that are in alignment with you. Second is, once you've made this list, do outreach. Do outreach to them and say, and talk about it personally. When I look at your brand, what I see is this. And the reason why I believe I can support you is because I am in alignment with you in these different ways. Now, you're going to be more attractive to the brand if you've got a follow, which is why the brand work goes way back beginning, to make sure that you are attracting the people who want what you have to offer. So authenticity, you build an audience base, and it doesn't necessarily need to be hundreds of thousands of followers. It could be tens of thousands of followers, because now a lot of brands are doing micro,
Mhm.
and so what they do is they aggregate, 10 different influencers who each have 20,000, different followers. And based on that, there's a certain pay scale that would be different than if they're doing somebody who has 200,000 followers. But what they've done is they've aggregated all of these different audiences. And so they're using money different.
Mhm.
So find the people that you're in alignment with, do the outreach. When you do the outreach, make sure that you are discussing how you can be of service to them and bring your follow.
Love that. And I even have done it to the point of even providing an example. Here's an example of what I could bring to you, an example post, or, an example. If it's a product line that I'm wanting to maybe get a licensing deal with, here's an example of a product that I feel I could design that's in line with your company. So sometimes that tangible little asset is to put you over the top. I did that when I was pitching my book. I wrote a sample chapter, and I think that's what put me over the top with getting my publisher, frankly. So I think that little edge is helpful too. Your thoughts?
It's helpful, because what you can do is added value. So
Mhm.
you're not just saying, I'm going to promote your brand, but I'm going to show people how lighting can create an impact or create a mood. I'm going to show you why this color happens to be very hot right now and how you can use it as an accent. So visually showing, especially in design, because we're talking about a visual industry, if you can show them and give them proof on how you can take their product and amplify it in a way and give added value to it, they're going to love it.
Good stuff. Now, the world is open back up fully. I believe we're back doing things in person again. I've talked about the trade shows and handshakes and all these things. You're a body language expert as well. And do you have any tips for people who maybe are a little apprehensive to get back out there into the real world and handshake and hug and all those things for that are really, I feel, are critical to networking and to, even continuing to build your brand. Do you have any positive body language advice that you can provide to people? Because I find your body language critique very interesting, because Jess writes body language critiques on celebrities and different people based upon reactions that they have to different situations in their life. And I'm like, that is so intriguing. And I like how we can take those little moments that a celebrity has and really bring it back to our own lives as well. But back to the people who are really just maybe there are things that we're doing that are wrong. Maybe there's something that you can encourage us to not do in a setting like that with our body language. I find it so interesting.
Well, body language is such an interesting, lovely field to dive into, because what it is, it's our nonverbal communication. And communication is only about 10% of the words that we use. So it's how you make someone feel, how you connect with them, how your body positioning allows you to be more expressive. So I think face to face contact in real life, human interaction is so important in going to these trade shows, because what you do is you're going to show the people, the person behind the brand. So some real simple things is be aware of making a connection. So that connection is through eyes, can be through a handshake, can be through some sort of gesture that allows them to know that you're validating them as individuals, right? And so I think that that is one aspect of it. Another aspect of it is to realize and to be aware of the ways that maybe you close yourself off. Now, we all, know about, crossing your arms and looking like this. This isn't always closing off. Sometimes you're really paying attention and listening. So think about the context when somebody does that. Don't automatically dismiss. They may be one of those individuals because they could, uh, be leaning against something, listening to you, and that's how they relax and that's how they pay attention. So find out ways that people are responding to you, the feedback that you're getting. And most often, people aren't going to always tell you, I like that or don't like that. They're going to show it to you in their body.
Mm.
So are they giving you the eye contact? Are they looking away? Are they trying to get away from that conversation and go on to the next thing?
Is there a celebrity that comes to mind that you think does really well, like presents themselves well with body language, or maybe someone that you've evaluated recently that you feel just like, okay, this person does a great job with body. I know I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just maybe there's something that you can relate we can relate to that you feel would be a positive influence for us in our body language because
Well,
that's all.
I think there are several people, and I can use different people for different examples
Mhm.
because I think we all, when you study somebody's body language, it's not one size fits all. You have to study them over a period of time, but you can get nonverbal cues from them instantly. So when I look at Kelly Clarkson in her talk show, she is very visual in how she gets excited about things. And she's also very honest when she doesn't understand something or, because she's very out there with her body. She's very in there with her body. Looked up. Wait, that's something I need to talk about. Or, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can barely breathe. So she's somebody who does that,
Okay.
that from a visual standpoint really gives us a sense of where her mind is at. Robbins on Good Morning America is also somebody that I think is very transparent in terms of you can see in her face when she's really interested in a story. You can see in her body language the way that she leans in. So, what I recommend is that when you're looking at TV or you're looking at videos, find people that you're attracted to and take a moment to evaluate what is it that I'm attracted to them about more than just their look. It's their words, it's the way that they articulate something, it's the way that they express something, and learn from that, that maybe there's a skill in there that you can use.
Good stuff. Now you have another book. Let's talk about that. And it is awesome, which is means something else. And it's 7 keys to unlock the speaker within. But tell me about your book, Awesome, and what the word awesome actually means in relation to your book.
Okay, so awesome. The 7 keys relate to the acronym. Awesome is AWESOME, and it stands for align, wired, empathetic, simple, open, magical, and engaging.
Ooh.
And these are 7 skills that all of us have within us to become powerful speakers. And what the book does is it breaks down these 7 assets that we have to realize, oh, maybe I can lean into this because this is a weaker asset I have. Or maybe I need to use this one more and I haven't been using it as much as possible. An example would be magic, right?
That's the one I was
Words,
drawn to, the magical word. I was like,
because it's
magical.
such a rich, wonderful word.
Yeah.
And every time we speak, we create, we literally are magical in our communication. So, for example, when you and I wrote each other and decided that we were going to do this podcast on this day, this time, we created a reality that did not exist before.
Mm.
So, our words literally created something. When you respond to somebody in a certain way and they react to it and they feel something, you literally are creating magic with your words.
Wow.
And so words are powerful in remarkable ways that we don't even know. Empathy is another one, when it comes to the 7 skills that we have. Empathy can look like active listening when we are able to validate the way that somebody feels, even just to let them know what they're feeling or what they're experiencing or what they're thinking is true.
Mm.
Even just to say, I can understand how you would feel that way. That really is a very powerful way that we can speak with people. So the everyday skills that we have to interact with people can really make us very powerful speakers, can make us very powerful presenters, and can help us with our brand in many different ways.
Wow, that is fun stuff. I love that. Tell everyone where they can find your books. So you have two books, now, and I just happen to know that Jess is writing a third book that is not finished yet, but he's working on a third book as we are speaking. Is that correct, Mr. Jess?
I am, and the working title is Unspoken, and it has to do with body language and how we go from posture to power.
Good stuff. Well,
Uh,
I can tell you the books are amazing. You guys should definitely pick them up, but tell them where they can find the books, Jess.
you can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes and Noble, and you can go to my website, which is JP3 Global Media, and there will be links there to purchase the book. And it's available in ebook and also traditional, paperback copies.
That's so great. Yeah, I highly recommend the books, you guys. And no matter what, and what I think is so interesting, when I first read The Everyday Celebrity, I was like, wow, this could apply to anyone, a real estate agent, an actor, hey, me as an interior designer. It really does have that, kind of all encompassing message for everyone, which I guess was your goal behind it, obviously, to have everyone everyday celebrity. And I think that is a powerful message that many people don't ever think of themselves as being a quote celebrity. And then they're in a small town, in the middle of nowhere, perhaps. And how can I be a celebrity, right? Like, how does someone who doesn't have a celebrity status be a celebrity?
Well, my goal ultimately as a student of communication is to help people shine when they need it most. And there are times when all eyes are on us for whatever reason. It could be us doing a report at work. It could be us doing an address in our community. Every now and then, all eyes are on us. And what celebrities show us is how to be purposeful in our communication and to seize that moment so that we can create impact. So every one of us in various different ways are celebrity. And you don't, again, have to be on a Hollywood movie or on a Broadway stage in order to shine because eyes are on you when you speak on a particular topic that is important in a particular situation.
That is so true. Wow. Well, Jess, this has been such an interesting conversation. I know my listeners, and now this is the first video we've done, by the way, of the podcast. So this will be on YouTube, and it's the first video we've done. Yes. So everyone gets to see a video for the first time, but I know there have been so many takeaways. I think this is going to be one of those episodes where you want to go back and listen to it again and really just take some notes on everything that we discussed today. And what I implore you to do is what Jess said. Think about how these things can apply to your specific situation, what you can do to better your business, possibly even better your personal lives and better your relationships. There's so many good nuggets in there. But tell everybody how they can, number one, find you, Jess, and any new upcoming exciting things that you have in the future.
Well, thank you, Johnny. And congratulations on all the wonderful work that you're doing. And I think the podcast and the book and the way that you're teaching people to tap into that designer within in many ways is touching the power within to create.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you and congratulate you. As for me, you can go to JP3 Global Media. That's my website. You can find me on Instagram at Jess Ponce. I have the A Factor program, which is being developed and coming out. So please drop me a line. You can go to my website and send me a link or send me a note. And I'd be happy to send you a link to register and to find out more information.
You're available to work with companies of any size, or tell me
Any size,
who you work with.
if you're, so my specialty are subject matter experts and influencers and small businesses. So you can be a business of any size. You can be an individual who's got an enterprise that you're developing, and I would be happy to work with you. You can be an established brand that is looking to refine something or to grow, and I'd be happy to work with you. So I work with small, very, very small to medium sized to large, but my specialty happens to be on the smaller end.
I love that. Yeah. So check them out. Go to all those places that he mentioned. I will put those in the show notes as well, so you can find them very easily. But Jess, thank you again for joining me today on The Designer Within. It's been
Such a pleasure having you as my first video guest today. Thank you, Jess.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much.
All right, everybody. What did I tell you? That episode was so packed full of goodness. First of all, thank you for enduring my microphone issue. Once again, sorry about that. I promise you it will not happen again. You guys know I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that. So I was so angry when I found out that that microphone was screwed up on my end. But thanks for listening. I know you could still hear 99% of the words, I hope. If you have any questions about what was missed, let me know. But what a good episode, right? Jess is always so chock full of information. I love his straightforwardness. I love how there are so many instant takeaways. And as I said in the interview, if you visit him on his social media, you'll find that he does post those little grab and go moments that I love so much that help me. But I hope that you have learned a lot about your own brand and have realized that you don't have to be this large company to have a brand. You can be an individual. You can have 10 followers. You can have 10,000. You can have 10 million. It doesn't matter. Your brand, as Jess said, is a direct reflection of you. And I love his definition of a brand. And he said that the way that he likes to define a brand is how we emotionally connect to our audience, how we sustain their trust and remain accountable to them. And the key words that he used were emotion, sustainability, and accountability. And I think that is so great. And I mentioned in the interview about authenticity, and he also reiterated the fact that when we show up as ourselves, our brand is best represented through our authentic selves. And that is something to remember. I also loved how he said that everybody is a celebrity. We are a celebrity no matter where we live, no matter what size town we live in, no matter what position we have, no matter what kind of job we have. We are all a celebrity in our own rights, and we don't have to be in a Hollywood movie to be a celebrity. Also, the other part that I took away was the ease of growing a partnership with a larger brand. Those very simple steps that Jess listed in the interview, partnering with a larger brand, it really demystified that for all of us. And I've partnered with brands before, and I can attest to exactly the steps that he gave. They work. And if you are looking to partner with a larger company, I know a lot of us want to partner with rug companies, with lighting companies, that sort of things. I suggest you follow those steps to the T. They were spot on ways that I have also partnered with brands before. And lastly, just remember that aha moment of the interview where he said that when you speak to everyone, you are really speaking to no one. I thought that was such a powerful statement, and it really stopped me in my tracks. And it just goes back to the point of niching down our messages. We cannot speak to everyone. You cannot be an expert on every subject matter. You cannot design in every design aesthetic out there, for instance. But when we are trying to speak to everyone, we really are speaking to no one. So find your audience, find that ideal client, and speak to them. Thank you again for listening today. Again, join me at High Point Market. I cannot wait to see you there. I have speaking engagements on Friday at Odette Furniture, Saturday and Sunday at Universal Furniture at 4 p.m. in their Learning Center. Also, head to my Instagram. If you go there, you will find in the links in the bio at The Designer Within or at John McClain Design. Either one of those has all of the links, and all of the downloads that I offer on the podcast are always going to be stored right there in my links, in addition to any speaking engagements, any other things that I have going on. All of those things will be there. So head to that area of my Instagram and download the branding download that I have for you in relation to this episode. It's fabulous and it's free just for you. Or if you've missed any of the other downloads that I've offered during the podcast, feel free to grab those there. They will always be stored there, as well as I mentioned the anniversary of my book. It is on sale now for only $29. That includes free domestic shipping, and that is a signed copy by me. So head to the link in my bio or to my website, johnmcclain.co, and you can purchase a copy of my book for only $29. And remember, this is that hardcover coffee table book, the same book that was released 1 year ago. I'm just celebrating with you and offering it to you on sale for the book anniversary for $29. So that is it. Make it a great day, my friend, and I will see you soon. I so appreciate you. Thanks for sticking with me to the end of the Designer Within podcast. It means the world to me. If you're ready to dive deeper into the topics that we've discussed here, be sure to check out my online courses and coaching program, The Designer Within Business. You'll join other like-minded creatives in various phases of their own businesses, whether just starting out or career veterans who are enjoying the freedoms and profits that can come from an organized and structured business. Now's the time to make the change for you and your company, and I'll be right by your side the entire way. Learn more at johnmcclain.co. That's johnmcclain.co.